Welcome. Hope everyone's doing well today. You are now tuning in to Spirit Soul Fire. I am GS9, aka Soul Brother number 9. And I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's vibrating high. I hope everyone's in good spirit. Got a special treat for you guys today. But before I get into that, Spirit Soul Fire is the YouTube channel. We are in the business of disseminating information, light. My purpose is to plant a seed in anyone who sees this information so that that seed may grow into a new perception on the reality that we live in. So that's my spiel, but we're going to get on to the show. Today I got a treat for you guys. This video, as you can see, the title here is Karen Hudes discloses the presence of aliens ruling our society. Now this, I stumbled across this video, I want to say about 10 and 11 years ago. Karen Hudes, little background information on Karen Hudes. She was a former World Bank exec, very high ranking position at the World Bank back in, I forgot the time frame. But essentially she's disclosing a secret hand or secret power behind the curtains that is not necessarily human, kind of controlling things. So, without further ado, let's get into the video.
Karen, just before we went to air, we were discussing the global corruption, the global syndicate, the bankers. Who are these people? Who are the individuals? Who are the puppet masters pulling the strings of the bankers?
Well,
because you had mentioned the Jesuits in a previous interview, so I'm intrigued as to know where's the connection to the Jesuit order, as well as through the Vatican and beyond. There's many secret societies in the world. Many people speak of the Illuminati and the Masonic orders, the Order of the Garter, many of these super elite organizations that operate in secrecy. So I know I've named a few already, but if you could help us elaborate on these points, who are the people pulling the strings?
well, do you remember when there were ghettos and you had something called a Judenrat that were the ones that would draw up the lists of the Jews that were going to get exported the next day? Do you remember how that system worked?
Well, it was a little before my time, but history would dictate what happened in those ghettos. So elaborate, please.
These were traitors to their people who were helping because they thought they were going to save themselves. That's maybe why they did that, but it doesn't matter what their motives were. They were doing the work against their people. Now, think of this as an elaboration on a larger scale, and what we're dealing with actually is humanity and the elite, the secret societies, the Vatican. They're traitors to humanity, because the one at the very core that's pulling the strings is a different species. They're not the human race. They're called Homo capensis. They have been on Earth together with humanity for before this ice age. And the reason I know about this is because I was trying to help out a movie producer who couldn't get his movie. It was called The Banksters Made Off with with America, Edmund Drille, and he introduced me to his network of whistleblowers. One of the
Okay, so Homo compensis. That's the I guess the scientific name of the alien force behind the scenes, kind of pulling the strings. I don't want to spoil things, but I'm going to give my 2 cents a little bit further into the video when she kind of describes exactly who these creatures or entities are. You know, one thing I do want to say is definitely look into Karen Hudes. This video is more than a decade old. She was a whistleblower for the World Bank. Obviously, she saw some things that led her to be a whistleblower to try to, basically enlighten humanity what was really going on. So look her up. She still has a YouTube channel. Obviously she's an older woman even in this video, but it's been about 14 years since this video, so she's a little bit older. Since then, she has been through a lot, as you can imagine. Any whistleblower that's come out, people try to go after you. So she's been through a lot. But definitely look her. She's definitely a legit person, very legit person. So
people in that network is a neurologist who went to Yale Medical School and was retired, and he was trying to find out what was at the very core of all of this corruption. And
so you mentioned this species, an additional species of humans, or
no, they're not humans. They are so distinct from humans that if they were to mate with humans, their offspring would not be fertile.
Now, are you speaking of the biblical Nephilim is an entity that people have discussed and tried to understand for millennia, and that is the race of offspring of humans and the fallen angels from.
No, these are not angels. These are not spiritual.
Well, the Nephilim themselves were the offspring of the fallen angels and humanity. Is this the same
They
species?
are not fallen angels. Mm-hmm. They are critters. People who I am getting emails from saw them the day before. They look just like human beings, except they have these big skulls. And that is why in the Vatican you see these crazy meters, is what they're called. And that's why the very first Jew.
Hold that thought. Yo, she said critters, yo. I don't blame her, man. There's a lot of craziness going on. But the interviewer mentioned Nephilim. Now, the Nephilim, obviously in the book of Genesis, that's a whole nother thing, and that in my enlightenment is something not is something that is valid, meaning that giants, essentially, in my opinion, it is my opinion, and in my enlightenment, all the things that were mentioned in the book of Genesis, it holds some truth to it. I'll put it like that. You be the person to discern to what degree of truth lies within it. So as far as like the Nephilim, as far as the snake in the Garden of Eden, or I would say a reptilian, or even giants, those are things that were mentioned in the book of Genesis. And we're gonna keep on bringing videos to kind of keep on planting those seeds nonetheless.
Moses wore one of those things because he was one of those Homo capensis as well. We have DNA samples of them, and the reason we know this is because it was in the papyri of one of the pyramids. I found this out from the internet, but what is really remarkable, actually, is that we have had so much evidence, and we haven't had any studies into it. If you look at the archaeology, there is a civilization off the coast because the sea level has risen by 400 meters. But what do we know about this ancient pre-Ice Age civilization? We do have a map that's left over from there because it shows the coastline of Antarctica before the ice froze on it. And it's following that landmass perfectly. So what we have is we have evidence. There's also evidence in South Africa. There are a lot of these skulls that you find. And what
You're speaking of the elongated skulls that have been found in graves, and even some of the skeletons found with these are in fact giant people.
that is something different.
See, told you as far as the giants. But nonetheless, like I said, there are many different entities that are on this earth that many people do not know of. You know, I will say that he did mention the elongated skull. Now, this is not to be confused with humans that headbind. Headbinding is basically at a young age in certain African cultures and some certain Aboriginal cultures, they bind the infant's skull with a rope or some type of tie to form their head almost into a cone shape. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that historically they saw these entities or these non-human creatures and wanted to mimic them. But I will say this, and she'll get into this a little bit later on the video. You ever wonder, as far as Queen Nefertiti and all the Egyptians, why they did wear head what's it called, head garments? Or even like she said, the Pope, why do they wear head garments? You know, it wasn't just for aesthetic purposes. Let me tell you that.
Different. No, I'm not talking about that. I am talking about a large skull.
The elongated skull, the elongated cranium.
Some are in Peru, some are elongated. But in other places, they're just round like pumpkins. And the individuals that were seen in Egypt, I've seen drawings of what their skulls looked like. It was just massive, much larger than human being skulls. And also, you know, in a human skull, there's something they call the parietal, where it's in 3 different segments. This critter doesn't have those separations. It's just two.
So you're saying that this specific species of individuals is occupying the Vatican and functioning through the Jesuit order?
Yes, but they're also working in the banks in Portugal, because one of the people who saw this, you know, in Saturday Night Live, there was a broadcast of something called the Coneheads. So that's a slang word for them, although my mother refers to them as the Boneheads. But they're alive and running around and doing all kinds of mischief.
Now, some people might find the information that you're presenting right now to be completely, some people might say it's completely crazy. What do you say to those people who are watching this right now going, I don't believe a word of it?
I would say you need to read the articles that Ed Spencer has sent me. You need to look at the skulls in the museums. You need to read the DNA studies. And you need also to think about what kind of motive the human beings might have for being traitors to their species.
Mind you, all this is documented in archaeological finds and even in certain museums. It was, you know, certain ancient museums that actually display Egyptian culture and artifacts do show paintings of and even sculptures of humans that had elongated skulls. That is a fact. That's definitely a fact.
Why would they do this? Why would we have a banking system where all the money ends up going to the Vatican and people run around starving? Why would we have, for example, if you look at what the actual teachings of Jesus Christ were, as opposed to when you had translations and various things happened and got put in there. And as some of the whistleblowers have been discussing this, information, articles on Homo capensis have disappeared from the internet. They've been taken down. And other critics who, I don't know why they're getting all the coverage they are, and they've been getting features in Wikipedia. Let me talk a little bit about Wikipedia.
Sure,
okay?
sure.
I had an experience with Wikipedia because I got involved in trying to edit the biography on Robert Zoellick, who was the World Bank president. And I was trying to explain to people that the United States had lost the gentleman's agreement, which you could demonstrate. You could see, I couldn't get that into Wikipedia. They were clearly being controlled by this group that is controlling all the capital markets.
So do you
and
think
the
that
banks.
these same people were preventing your Wikipedia edits?
Yes, and what I'm trying to say is that this person who was attacking the information on Homo capensis had a big, long article featuring her on Wikipedia. So I know who Wikipedia is. I know whose interests Wikipedia serves. And when somebody who's just starting out gets a big write-up, I know what that really means.
So what does it mean?
It means that there is manipulation of information. It means that people are given exposure and credentials that they haven't earned. You know, some people have said, I obviously have to be a disinformation expert because I'm getting press coverage. I can show you all of the effort that I took to get exposure and for people to vet my story. And that's there. I'm simply getting exposure.
What do you say to those people who would call you a disinformation agent who has been putting out information to confuse people or to misdirect people? People that might even leave comments in the video section below and say, she's actually a World Bank agent provocateur. How do you address that question?
What I say is that if you look at what it is, don't look at me, don't criticize me, look at what I'm saying, see if I have anything to back it up, if I have documentation for it. But one of the other criticisms I get is that I couldn't be alive. If I were for real, I wouldn't have made it this far. And the answer that I have to that is I say, I have always been working in a team of whistleblowers. If something happened to me, it was just going to blow up what I was trying to uncover, because I was talking about a cover-up of corruption. I didn't have a document, any one document I needed to reveal. I was pointing to a whole system of cover-up. I was pointing to the fact that the media was not telling the story the way it deserved to be told. They had an agenda. They had a hidden, secret agenda. As I've said, the whistleblowers are like Toto in The Wizard of Oz, pulling the...
I find it astounding that about 14, 15 years ago, she's calling out the media as far as the manipulation that the media has been doing. It is more evident and more pervasive right now. I think everyone's awakening to the fact that the media has been compromised, that it seems like they are the purveyors of information that could be questionable, and or it seems like these little excuse me, a little camera malfunction. Okay. Take two. But like I was saying, that the media are the ones that have been manipulating a lot of information. I'm gonna tell you one thing. In this matrix that we're in, those who are in power that non-human inorganic force. What they've done in this matrix is they've made right wrong, left right, up down. They've made everything backwards. And you know, Karen, she said that, you know, if she was exposing all of this, people were saying, you know, if she's exposing all of this, and why is she still, you know, basically still alive for this? And I will say this: this clip is about 15 years old. They've tried allegedly to, you know, do many things to her, and she's pretty much have pulled through. I would say, send her your send love and light and blessings her way, and pray for her safety, of course. But as I was saying, the media is questionable, and with everything coming to the forefront and everyone kind of waking up and seeing and not starting to distrust the media, it just shows you that they, for the most part, in my opinion, are bought and sold. But that's they're bought and sold. So let's continue.
Curtain back, and people are now seeing the wizard, which is this corrupt group, and they're also seeing that the mainstream media is projecting onto a screen their propaganda, which is not reality. What you get in the mainstream media has a hidden secret agenda. It wouldn't be there if people whose
Facts.
interests are behind that cabal is what they're called.
So, on the internet now, anyone can publish any documents. Anyone can publish any website to establish a historical record. How do we know the information that you've been receiving is actually authentic? I mean, the birth certificate of the President of the United States has been in question for so many years. Even when it was released, the most recent official one was released, they found multiple layers in the birth certificate. So what's to say that information that you've been receiving hasn't been doctored by another agency or another entity to provide you with information that could misdirect? Because if they see perhaps that you're out there speaking these things, that people are going to believe you because of what you say, but they may be feeding you wrong information. Is there any possibility that could be true?
Well, as for the storyline that I have, I can give a very detailed chronology showing at any given stage what I was revealing, who I was revealing it to. It's very compelling. That's not something that can be doctored. That is absolutely, it's just, it's there for anybody to read. And so that's, if anybody is saying, am I for real? Yeah, I'm for real. Now, am I doing a good enough job on the information that I'm getting from other whistleblowers? Sometimes I'm doing a lousy job. So I got snookered on a story about a planet that was Nibiru. I got really snookered. And what was really interesting there, I learned a lot, was
Nibiru, once again, that rabbit hole leads to the Anunnaki, but we'll leave it at that.
I tried to correct the information, and every time I corrected the information, it was taken down from the internet. So I learned that you have to be really a little careful about information and vetting it.
Well, certainly practicing discernment in everything we do is something that must be practiced, especially when we're handed documentation that can make certain claims, and of course vetting the documents themselves. So back to the topic at hand, and the global cabal of puppet masters who are pulling the strings of the international elite and the banksters. I had mentioned the Illuminati and the Masons, and I mentioned the Order of the Garter and these super secret organizations. But you take
And aside from secret societies right in your face, we have such things as Davos, the Bilderberg Group, the World Economic Forum. You know, all this talk about the Great Reset. Mind you, this video is about 15 years ago. When she talk about the bankers, the Federal Reserve, that's all dealing with that whole system. So it's crazy that she talked about a lot of this stuff back then, and everything is slowly starting to come out for the general public to see, if you have eyes to see.
Take it all back to the Vatican. You take it all right back to those this species of people. If I could provide a little bit of historical perspective for a moment, when the Illuminati was supposedly disbanded, some people believe that it just didn't disappear; it went underground, and it simply spread itself out. Would you say that the same is happening with this species of I would say, you say they're not human, but for lack of better words, I'll say they're a species of humans. Do you think that these individuals have peppered themselves through some of these organizations as well?
What I know is...
Or is it isolated simply to the Vatican?
What I know is that when you get to be a 33rd degree Mason, and the Black Pope, and also the archaeologists, they all know that Moses was Akhenaten. And if you know that, then you know that Akhenaten...
Now, you guys got to do your research on Akhenaten and Moses, because at the surface level, especially from somebody who's really kind of I would say a Bible thumper, no disrespect, but come to find out that, I'll put it like this, though. I'm tapped in. I feel, I'm spiritual, and not to say it in a cliche way, but when I say spiritual, I mean that I have a personal relationship with God, the creator of all, the Alpha and Omega. I do have a personal relationship with God. I speak to God. I try to walk in God every day and communicate. But I will say this, as far as the Bible definitely has a lot of wisdom and knowledge in it, but I would say, and it is my opinion, that it has been infiltrated, and upon my research and enlightenment, that's what I've come to realize. But I will say at least the one part or segment of the Bible that I believe has maintained to the most part its authenticity, I would say. Now, maybe that's not the best word to say, but I would say the teachings of Jesus, and or better yet, Yeshua, Jesus, because Jesus is not his actual real name, for those who don't know. But that's neither here nor there. But one of the main things that Yeshua did preach was that the kingdom of God is within you, not to worship him, that everyone should have a relationship with God. And a lot of his teachings have been kind of manipulated, and there are parts of the Bible that were taken out. Obviously, there's books in the Bible that were taken out, and in those books you find a lot of other wisdom and knowledge that kind of contradict other things that other Bibles have said. But we'll leave it at that. But I only go in to say that Akhenaten, Moses, come to find out, there's a relationship obviously with Egypt, these non-human beings, and Moses being who he was, and even some of the things how they describe Moses were kind of in some regard, non-human.
Had this huge skull, and his daughters had this huge skull.
I'm gonna run that back
I'm
1
going
second.
to presume
Some of these organizations as well.
the Black Pope and also the archaeologists, they all know that Moses was Akhenaten. And if you know that, then you know that Akhenaten had this huge skull, and his daughters had this huge skull. So I'm going to presume that they probably also know that there are individuals, and they're not humans. They do not have the same kind of DNA that we do. And I can tell you what I know about them. They're very mathematical. Their average intelligence is about 150. And they do not have creativity. They're not emotional. And the other thing is that in the process of working with all of these whistleblowers, I've learned a lot about the strengths of Homo sapiens, because we're not giving each other salaries, we're not giving each other honors, we're not giving each other anything other than additional hard work. But we also know who we're working for. We're working for all of humanity.
So I have to ask this question because some of the viewers who are watching right now are going, they're talking about another species with an elongated skull. You mentioned the high intelligence, the lack of creativity, and it's going to be hard for people to grasp that reality. And of course, everyone has to do their own homework to discover these things. But given your whistleblower status with the World Bank, do you think that by promoting or discussing these types of theories hurts your credibility and all in the minds of some of the people who may have first heard of you through the whistleblower status at the World Bank?
I'll tell you what, I've gotten a fair amount of feedback like that. And I'll tell you what I say to these people. I say that it has been an incredible experience to have made it this far. And the number one thing...
I just want to interject just to reiterate, this is presently she's former, but she was a high level executive at, high level statured employee of the World Bank. She is familiarized with all the top players in the financial system, from the IMF, from the Federal Reserve, anything dealing with money. She knows, I'm sure she knows a lot of important people. So, someone like that, obviously, in my opinion, wouldn't just be coming out and lying. And like I said, use your discernment. In my discernment, her body language, how she's speaking, her confidence, she doesn't seem disillusioned. Like I said, maybe it's hard for someone, a regular person to kind of hear it and really absorb it and understand the truth in it. But to me, I don't see any signs of lying in her body language, her tonality, anything like that. And even to know who, her what level she was in this bank, in the whole financial world. She wouldn't just be coming out and saying something that she couldn't back up or validate.
That I've learned in that process is to trust my own intuition, because that has really served me very well. And my intuition is telling me that this is the time to tell people this.
If you look at the picture of Akhenaten,
See, that's Akhenaten.
And his daughters, the pharaohs, they had these huge headdresses.
Queen Nefertiti, you see? You see the head gown?
that was to hide their large skulls. They're hominids. They're not human beings. They're very, very smart. They're not creative. They're mathematical. And they had a much stronger force in the earlier Ice Age. You know, there are a lot of museums that have skulls of these, some people call them coneheads by slang. Some people say it's more than one species. It's pretty clear that that group is not able to, they may produce offspring in mating with female humans, but that offspring is not fertile, or we would see more of these hominids. And they have been, making themselves scarce. But when Edward was giving me all this information, I shared it with a man in Portugal who went and had a meeting with a bank, and he sent us an email the next day and said that there was a big skull person with bright blue eyes at the meeting of that bank. This person, the bank had made some improper loans to his father, and so he was meeting with the bank about those improper loans.
Well, interesting. That takes things in a bit of a different direction. So you're basically saying that these beings, whatever they really are then, maybe not human hominids. We've talked about elongated skulls and other oddities before on the program, so we're familiar with it in that regard. But you're basically saying that that's the power behind the throne in this case.
What you have is a world in which there are secret societies and secrets, and the news and the information that ought to be public is not public. That group that I was telling you about, the Jesuits, and behind them this group called Capensis, Homo Capensis, or Coneheads as some people call them, they were trying to steal the world's gold.
So it goes back to Yamashita's gold, this whole story.
No. Yes, that's part of it. It starts off with Solomon, and then you get the Aztecs and the Incas and the Pharaoh's gold, and you then get all of the gold that Yamashita had. It's more gold than you know about. The world is incredibly wealthy.
Real deep. Please do like, share, and subscribe. I will be posting the original link to the video below. Check it out, without the commentary. Look into her. Like I said, she's legit. A lot of information there. And real life is stranger than fiction. What can I say? But love and peace. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'm out.